Shelly, welcome to the Retail Whore Podcast.
Hi.
I am so honored that you're here. You and I have gone back and forth. We've even done a little bit of work together. And it's like, I'm so excited to finally have you on here because I think your story is amazing. I love watching your Instagram and seeing how your store is kind of evolving and things you're doing. Before we tap into all of that, give everyone a little introduction to yourself, where you live, your store, and what your store's about.
Okay. Well, I came originally from Southern California. We moved up here 9 years ago from like the Long Beach area. I started my design company in 2009, kind of on a whim, was kind of a stay-at-home mom, was kind of doing it on the side. I had gone to design school and started just taking friends. That kind of started building, but I never really thought like, oh, I'm going to open a store. That was also something in my mind all my life since I was a teenager. I spent my time going to stores all over Southern California with my mom and my grandma, and we would always take mental notes about like our favorite ones. And there's a lot of them were still in business, which is fantastic. But so when we moved up here, I just saw a major need for a store. It seemed like Pismo was like up and coming, but it was really a very touristy, taffy type of tchotchke, Pismo Beach kind of place. So we opened the store in 2015 because I was crazy and had nothing to do. I'll be honest, that's why I did it. I opened it because I needed more to do. So
did you say, do you have kids?
I have one. She's 16.
Okay. Yeah. So she was young then when you started this.
Yeah. So I started the company when she was 2. And then
so you had something to do.
Yeah. And I took her with me. It's like, so she knew all the showrooms. I mean, are you kidding me? A kid in a showroom with all the candy they always had? Like that kid, like, I'm surprised she didn't lose all her teeth because like they were like giving her ice cream and like, you know, everything. And she wasn't a fat kid either, which was crazy. I don't know how that didn't work out like that, but, yeah. So, and then when she was here, you know, she was 8 years old. She was already getting a little bit older and they get busier as they get older. So I could take on a little more and a little more. But she's the whole reason I got the store because we were driving home from school one day and she said, Mom, that would be a great store for you. Yeah. And I went, oh my God, honey, no, what? That's big. She goes, oh, Mom, it would be great. That should be your store. And she was 10 at the time.
From the mouth, babes.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about where your store is at within Pismo.
So we just have this little downtown area. There's a strip that's basically surf shops that goes down to the pier. We're on Price Street. We're horizontal to the 101. We were actually the original PCH. So that got rerouted to the 101, but Price Street was PCH. I don't even know how long time ago. So my building is actually one of the historical buildings that has stayed there, one of the originals. So we're right across from like there's the most famous little restaurant there, Giuseppe's. It's Italian. It's been there for probably 30 years. It's really well known. So we're right in like this little hub of like great restaurants. And it's really just me and one other store. We're the only retail on this strip.
Really? Still?
Yeah.
All these years later?
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. If you go down the beach, like towards the pier, that's all surf shops and like tchotchke. Okay. But really, we're the only high-end stores in the area. Me and the clothing store. So,
oh, okay. I actually is it called Zeppi's?
Giuseppe's.
Oh, Giuseppe's. Okay.
Giuseppe's.
Wow, we had a Zeppi's.
Oh,
well, same thing. Growing up downtown Manhattan Beach, you know, it was downtown Manhattan was mostly toy stores and candy stores and, you know, pizza places and our favorite Mexican food. There wasn't like real, now it's super high end, but
I grew up going down there. Waterleap is one of my favorite stores. I adore those girls and I look up to them. They are doing exactly what I'm trying to do. So
were they weren't in the Metlocks complex when you saw them last, right? I think they were downtown Manhattan. Now there's a complex. It's the Metlocks complex. It's where Metlocks Pottery was, and then they leveled the factory and they created an amazing shopping complex and hotel and whatnot. But they do a phenomenal job at retail.
Mm-hmm. They do, yeah.
So you start like your background though, went into this as a designer and then you opened up the retail space. Did you include the interior design within the retail space or was it just home products and
So initially I was trying to keep them as two different things. My Van Rozeboom Interiors, which is no longer, and COVE. And that kind of got complicated. I kept looking for a store manager to take over. I kind of had one for a while. Shout out to Jennifer White. She's amazing. She sells insurance now. But that's been the only person that would ever, people here don't want to work. It's the weirdest thing. We're in this very, it's San Luis Obispo. It's slow. It's, you might want to go to work. You may not want to go to work that day. You might want to go surfing.
Nickname Slow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Pismo Beach is part of San Luis Obispo County and we're all considered slow. Yeah. So, which is funny because it's exactly what it is.
Well, I mean, not to fast forward to this, but so after COVID, because everyone now has issues hiring and no one wants to work and it's finally, I feel like gaining traction, but how is it post COVID, like trying to get somebody?
I go through these waves. I tend to get, I feel like the universe just gives me the right people because I'll get a big, like just recently when I hired, I had tons of applicants, but gosh darn it, nobody's even minutely qualified for the position. I'm like, oh, you worked at Taco Bell, dear boy, and you're 18. You can't sell a sofa or jewelry. Well, maybe you can, but yeah, so it seems like I always get these people who are just gems. Like I get really great girls and they all become family and I try to keep in contact with all of them. I just been lucky, but it's this place doesn't keep people long. So I may have them at the most 2 years, but then they move on and move away. So it's interesting.
So when you did you close your interior design business because you couldn't get a manager in place and you couldn't do two jobs at once?
No, we integrated them completely now.
Oh, wow, okay.
So, we've always done design out of the store, but now we are COVE Lifestyle and Design, trying to keep it so the customer doesn't get confused on having the two because they were.
Yeah.
So we do everything. I mean, we will do full service design, or we will just sell you a couch, or we will just sell you a blouse, or we do a little bit of everything. I think in some ways I've always looked up to Ampro, and I think that's also come into play in my store. I like a lot of things. I bring it all in.
I love that you did away with your brand as an interior design. You took it inside because I do know an account that I've worked with, and she has her retail space and her design very separate. And I think there is a disconnect. I think that makes sense that if you have it with under the same roof, we have interior design services available. And then also, if you're not looking for that, you can buy a sofa.
Yes. Yeah.
When you first started, tell me a little bit about, or tell everyone a little bit about what kind of inventory and what the store looked like then versus what it looks like now.
Yeah. So, we started, we had a budget in mind. I look back now and think it was a pretty small budget, and the store we picked, the location was very expensive to end up overhauling because it had never been overhauled. We had dead carcasses in the ceiling. Critters crawling and dying. The whole tile ceiling was falling down. We had old cloth wiring in that building.
Wow.
Just lots of things. So our budget ended up, we tripled what we had to spend on that place. So my landlord loves me because I've completely overhauled that place. So that was interesting. Another good friend of mine owns Bixby and Ball down in Encinitas, or she did. She was part owner. She taught me a lot about how they started, and I tried to do it the way she did it. It was not as easy, but we were very small at first. It was very sparse. It was very clean. I had 2 sofas. I had a little bit of art. But now it's grown. It is everywhere. I mean, it's an experience in the store. There's definitely a lot to look at. So,
well, the store, what was the store? Because we did a Zoom call and I had a chance to see the store behind, like what the layout is. And like, you got all these other little rooms and whatnot. What was the store prior and how did you attack the design scope based on what it was prior?
Yeah. So it originally started out as the bus station. It was a bus station in the 40s.
Wow.
And it was very open, and there was a ticket booth, and you would walk up these little stairs and go in the back, and there was a bathroom area, but you would catch the buses there's a street on the side of our building. You'd catch your bus. Then that changed, and it's been a liquor store, a flower shop. The people who own my store, his mom had a design store in there. It's been a real estate office. And then when I got it, it was a marketing call center. So it was cubicles. The whole thing was cubicles. So we had to get rid of those cubicles. They left them for us. That was fantastic.
Nice. Thanks so much.
And yeah, so it had been a lot of different things. So those little offices that were built in there were from the real estate agency.
You kept them though, right?
I did. I made one my office and one is our fabric room. Although we are evolving again. So we're trying to kind of figure out this little Frankenstein building, what it's going to be next. We have some plans to expand it a little bit and change the rooms.
So when you started bringing in new inventory and more inventory, well, what was the reaction? How long did it take to catch, being that you're now downtown in a store that sells knickknacks and pizza and surf stuff? Like how long of a transition was it till people started to know you were there? Because I think that's one thing a lot of people, when you move into a space like this or an area like this, it's not instant. It's either instant or it takes time to build up. What was your timeline like?
So it is interesting that I still feel we're going to go on 6 years this May. I still feel like there's people in San Luis Obispo or Paso Robles that come down and go, "Are you new?" And I'm like, "No." And I advertise like crazy. I'm all over social media. But the crazy thing about Pismo is the amount of second homes here. We have the Central Valley people from Bakersfield and Fresno and Visalia. A lot of them have second homes here. They also really like Giuseppe's. Giuseppe's is our local place. So going to eat there, they'd find me and they'd come over and go, "Oh my gosh." And people just ate it up. It was crazy. In the beginning, we were doing a lot of second homes on the coast for them, but also I was going over to Fresno and Bakersfield and doing homes there. So,
wow.
It was weird because I'd never worked with that market because I was an LA girl. So yeah. Completely different customer, completely different client.
How hard was it when you started ramping up? How hard was it to balance? Because design work is not like, I mean, I guess you could do some of it sitting at your desk at the store, but it's not like, I mean, you need focus and you need fabrics and you need to spread out. Like, how hard did that become to balance both of them?
It was really challenging. And 2020 was our hardest, but most amazingly growth year ever. I mean, I know everybody said that, but I opened in 18. And so then when 20 happened, I was really scared, but we were closed for just a little bit, but we got to open because we had tile, we had plumbing supply, we had things. So we kind of snuck under that radar.
Forgot about that.
Yeah. And so we opened the very beginning of May, even though in April, my old manager, she was amazing and going on Instagram Live and selling stuff. And she was hand delivering things to people. I mean,
that's amazing.
Trickling the money in, but kept us in she kept us around, basically. People remembered us. They didn't forget about us. And so when we reopened, they came back like big time.
So you were allowed to be open during the pandemic because the tile and because kind of like how pharmacies were allowed to stay open. Did they ever, because Ventura, you're not Ventura County, right? But I know Ventura County.
Yeah.
Ventura County did like the Target by me in the South Bay and Targets everywhere else. You know, they were open all the way around. And Ventura decided that you can only shop the pharmacy, and they made Target's close. They yellow taped it off so you could.
Right.
Did you ever have that where somebody came in and was like, "No, you really can't"?
No, I didn't. I will say we're really lucky. We're very close to we're very involved in the city. I don't know how that happened because I was never that person before, but I'm very involved with the Pismo Beach city people, and nobody ever said anything. And we were very safe. I mean, I did not want to get it. I got it anyways, but
I think everyone's got it.
we had funny masks. I had the shield. But I also was kind of like, God, if Eos Valley people, you can't tell them to put a mask on.
Yeah. There's certain areas. I think about like that whole period. And I say this all the time on the podcast, like I don't want to talk about the pandemic, but now it's been long enough where it's like so bizarre to me that we even went through that. And especially some areas, like I did a job in Wyoming and like they did not acknowledge it even happened. They were still having rodeos. They were still, it was like they were in their own bubble. Like nothing was going on. It was completely normal there. I was like, that is crazy. And like where the rest of us, like we're so strict. And then others that, like, but I understand there's a lot of people that was like, nope, I'm not. I mean, the pharmacy, a guy came in, he wouldn't wear a mask, but he decided to put on tidy whities over his head and the eyes. And he was like, I'm wearing a mask. And I think about those days and these conversations. I'm like, holy shit, how did we even go through that?
I mean, is it worse to catch the COVID or have your face in the crotch of your underwear? I don't
like, and walking around like that's your point, but you're walking around in a store and it's like, the weirdest thing. So it's always interesting to me here how when people were allowed to stay open, like how that looked and how that went. And I love that you were able to, because those who were, it's like, what a gift.
I think in everything, my background in restaurants and hospitality, and I also worked at Disneyland for a couple of years right when I graduated high school. And so I feel like that's still in me. I'm Switzerland. I play both sides. I am nice. I am, I don't want to rile people up. I just want to be everybody's friend. And I tell my girls to do the same, wear the mask. If the person doesn't want to wear the mask, you wear your mask and keep a distance or whatever it was. And then I had one girl who was like, I'm not vaxxing and I'm not masking. And I was like, all right, fine, whatever. And I was like, and she never got it.
I mean, I've had it 3 times now. At this point, I think almost everybody has it. Although my husband's never gotten it, which is crazy.
Mine either.
3 times. Like, who is that? But maybe he's had it and he didn't know. I don't know. But well, I want to ask you about Disneyland all of a sudden now. Like,
oh yeah,
what was that your first job?
No, my first job was when I was 14 in restaurants. But I had a dream to work at Disneyland. Ever since I was little. I grew up in West Covina, so Anaheim's not very far away. But right when I graduated high school, I went down and tried out and got a job on the rides as a cast member. And it was very strict back then. They had a look. They had a personality. They would put you.
So I have heard you have to be a high school graduate.
Mm-hmm.
What are the other strict rules? I love hearing stuff like that.
It used to be really strict. So you couldn't have any like piercings up here. You couldn't wear a lot of eye makeup. You had to wear certain color lipstick, light color nail polish, 1 ring on each hand. No crazy hair. In fact, it was 1994. I had just gotten this part up here pierced and it was so cute. And I went to work the first day and they're like, nope, take that out. I'm like, darn it.
How long were you at Disneyland for?
Just 2 years. But I'm still very good friends with so many people there and they are family forever. I mean, I can't explain that experience, but it's amazing.
I have to ask you this because I know my takeaways from my jobs that I've had in the past when I was younger. What are your biggest takeaways and what do you still, along with being Switzerland, what do you still do and believe as far as from the Disneyland days?
You're nice to everyone. Just be kind because usually you can turn a bad situation around if you just hit them with complete kindness. And sometimes that is very, very hard. I will say it's very hard for me because I'm not a confrontation person, but you have to. It gets worse if you try to, if you try to be too stern, they can turn on you. And people at Disneyland get really volatile. Like it's crazy.
The happy place on earth, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, you tell a guy to get off a wall and they tell you they don't listen to women.
Oh, wow.
I had that happen once, and then I got him kicked out with security.
Oh, that's the best part, I bet about.
He said, I don't listen to women. And I said, oh, you do now. Please get down, sir. No. Okay, security.
Oh my God, amazing. What was it? Now, this will be my last question. What was the craziest thing you saw there?
Oh boy, craziest thing. There was a lot of drug taking.
What
I
year?
guess.
Yeah. Oh, I believe it. What year is this?
94.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, does that make sense? So you'd see a lot of a certain age group coming in, and you're just like, oh my gosh, they're loaded. They're loaded. I mean, and this is before pot smoke was, or pot, smoking pot was fine, but they were doing heavier stuff. But then we catch them all the time, like in Space Mountain Lighten Up or Matterhorn Lighten Up or any dark ride, anything that was dark. They thought it was a perfect time to just roll it out. Like,
oh, I'm going to tell the story only because, and my best friend Lisa who used to work with us. You could take the monorail over from the park over to the hotel. And there was a hotel that one of the restaurants had this drink called the Klondike Kickers in a little glass boot. I don't think we were of age, but we didn't get carded, or I'm not sure how we ended up drinking. And the amount of drinking that we did with these little, toting these little glass boots around got so hammered that when it came time get the park closed, we could not find our car. And we were like in the Disneyland security, car traveling around our car, two drunken girls. It's like, I will never forget the Klondike Kickers and just how easy it was just to take the monorail over to the bar.
Yeah, that was a big thing. That I missed those days. That was what even as cast members, we'd go on our days off, and that's what you would do. You go over to the hotel, you get a drink, you come back. You're like, but now California Adventure, you can drink.
Yes, that's the new thing. But that's my end of Disneyland. But I've never had anybody on that's worked there, so I was like, I had to ask a couple.
And I drove the monorail, so
did. Oh my God, how fun!
Yeah, I was the first girl on subs.
Oh my God, how fun!
So 3 girls.
I gotta say, I do miss Disneyland. I haven't been there in years, and it is to me like the most iconic place to be around, especially growing. I was born in Anaheim, so we moved to the beach. I think I was 4 or 5 when we moved, but I do vividly remember, knowing how close Disneyland was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So enough about Disneyland.
Yeah.
So when you started bringing in, you sell apparel now and jewelry. So when did you start taking those risks? Cause those are when you are, doing design work and you're selling furniture and home goods, that's relatively a risk in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I wanted it to not only be where you could come and buy a great rug and lamps and pillows and stuff, but I wanted you to be able to pick a little gift up. At that time, the only places I knew about that had gifts was literally Target and Home Goods in San Luis Obispo. We didn't have a lot of options. So if you needed a quick birthday present, there wasn't any place to go, at least back 6 years ago. It's gotten better. But so I did bring just a little bit in. And then we just experimented. I mean, we've had our fails, where we brought things in and I'm just like, oh, why did we do that? But everything for some reason does tend to translate to each other in some way. So
for people that have, or designers that have retail spaces, because clothing is, I say a risk and it's not a risk, only because coming out of the pharmacy consulting part of it, it's apparel was our number one thing. It was I always knew, but selling furniture and home decor is very different than, you're in pharmacy and you're wandering around. When you first did apparel, how did you test it out, and what did you buy then, and what does it look like now?
So, we started with just pajamas and robes. So the real easy stuff, and we kept it by our bedding area, and it did great. I mean, we're coming up to the season right now. Mother's Day, it always does really well. Mother's Day and Christmas, that's what people buy. They're women. And so then I've just started bringing in this brand, which I love, Maria. I don't even know. She is an old blogging friend of sorts, acquaintance that I met 15 years ago, and she started her own brand. I do a lot of block print in my store. So that was an easy transition into block print clothing, because I just love anything that, has a feel like from India or anywhere like that has, just a handmade quality to it.
You sell John Deere.
I've sold that. I saw John Rawshaw.
Yeah.
I've been a fan forever.
I am obsessed with that line. So I understand the love of block print. What style of store and decor would you say COVE is? Like if you had to give yourself a style?
I will, and it didn't mean to get this way, but I think if you squeezed me out into a glass, that's what COVE is. I am a total Southern California girl, but I love to travel. I love things with a story. I like the East Coast too. I like a little prep. I like nature. So it's got a little bit of everything. People do walk in and say it feels like the beach, although I look at it and go, well, no, this could go in a farmhouse. This could go, I don't, but I like color. I like print. I can't go into a store. I mean, I always appreciate them, but when a store is like monochromatic and like, I go, oh, this is really pretty. And I end up not buying anything. It's the weirdest thing. But you put me in an anthro with color and all the things, I'm like, woo, give it all to me.
It's also, I feel like stores like yours that have an anthro that have, texture and has prints and color, that it just adds to the layers and to the overall visual. I have an appreciation. I never did of monochromatic until later. And now I look at it like Jellycat just did the release. No one's seen it yet, but they're releasing they redid the baby. And the baby group, the picture I saw that Lisa from Stephen Young, they're redoing it right now. It's all like those makeup colors. So the brown bunnies and the fleshy colors. And I don't know, it's that for some reason that is like much more I like that now, but I still, when I look at my house and I look at things that I love and I'm drawn to, especially Robeshaw, I mean, it's like his prints are just divine. And it's that well-traveled, colorful, handmade, slightly ethnic. Like, I don't know. It's so yummy. So I
love it too. Yes. Yeah. But when I design, I always welcome when somebody tells me, I want California, neutrals. And I'm like, oh, good. Somebody doesn't want blue and coastal and modern. I welcome it.
Yeah. I'm still a big coastal person. I mean, we've moved to Oregon and you've seen my pictures of my house in the background. It's very coastal. My husband's a surfer. And there's still very much that now, but yet, like I was at the flea market this weekend and I was like looking for old oil paintings that were of this area in Oregon.
Oh, I love that.
And it's because it's old. Like some of my coastal stuff is vintage, and it's like the vintage and vintage, it just kind of somehow works all together. Yeah. But I certainly, now that I'm here, it's like, it's weird that we have a seahorse picture in our living room. Like, is that even going to relate?
I know. I think if I moved to Utah, I would still have, beach stuff in my house. I can't help myself.
It's definitely a lifestyle. I think it's so pretty. So tell me a little bit about what you're going into the summer. What does business look like you for in the summer, and how, with your interior design, because I know interior has ups and downs. It's like, do your high times ever meet at the same time? Or are you able to kind of?
They did. 2021, like that. Those 2 years were just, I can't even believe I don't have an ulcer. Like it was a lot. But I had a bigger team and I had somebody helping me with design. So it worked out. And it seems like my staff too, I've had a lot of girls and now I only have 2 girls, and we kind of go like that. It just works out that way. But yeah, so coming to summer, I am really curious. It hasn't seemed to stay the same every year. It seems to change every single year. And I don't know if it's because we're so touristy here. I don't know what it is. But summer is typically just very, very good. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that want to get out. And during the whole COVID time, we had people from the East Coast over here all the time who never even came to California and didn't know Pismo. Like, how do you pick Pismo? So weird. But that made us, we got a lot of work from that. So they shop in the store and then they go, oh, you do design. So it would translate into more. So
fantastic. I love that.
Yeah.
With the ebbs and flows and whatnot, when are you able to take time, and, what does days off and what does time off look like for you?
Um, I'd like to say I can fully log off and not be present, but I am always kind of a little present. I maintain our social media as well. And I'm maintaining, I'm part of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm on the board. And so I'm also very involved with them. So my days off, I do, I have strict hours. My clients know this, but I am checking emails almost immediately as soon as I'm waking up. Like I'll get my coffee, sit down, and I'm starting at 7:30 and I'm going till 9 o'clock at night, just checking, whatever. But my time when I'm actually able to meet people and be at the store is very strict. It's 9 to 6, basically. That's it. And I take my home life very seriously. I realize, I think I've heard you talk about human design a little bit. Yeah, I'm a generator.
Okay.
So I don't have finite. I have a lot of energy, but when it's gone, it is gone.
Yeah.
And so I really have realized now I can't keep going. I will burn out, and then all my creative juices go away. I can't buy for the store. I can't design. So in order for me to keep going at a capacity I need to, I have to be strict about, okay, when I'm done, I need to go have my dinner time. I need to sit and kick my feet up and have my dogs on my lap. I need to go take a hike on the weekends. I don't mind working a weekend day and filling in for somebody, but when I'm off, I have to be off. I have to be, barely able to get a hold of.
Was that hard to start? Like, was that a habit you've always had, or was that hard to start? Because I know for a lot of people, and especially a lot of store owners, that, you feel like you need to be there all the time. You need to be on or accessible. And I think that a lot of people, when they finally do put that wall up and say, this is my time, I'm very protective of my time, I think that was a very big push-pull for a long time before you finally started to see the fruits of it. Was it challenging at first?
It's still challenging, but I have to, one of my favorite things to do, we love to camp. And when I'm camping, I want to be far away. Like, I don't want cell service, nothing. But that takes a lot of trust in my girls. And so, right now I only have 2, and one's just still brand new. So I have to make sure I'm putting on schedule the person who I know that if she can't get a hold of me, she can either figure it out or let them know I will get back to them on Monday, and it's really just setting expectations, I guess. And, if I do get somebody that comes in on one of my days off and they're asking a lot of design questions, the girls know to text me and tell me, somebody's wanting to know how to do their living room. I'm kind of stuck. I was saying, great, have her make an appointment with me for this week, and I'll meet with her one-on-one in the store and work with her. And I honestly, since I've been doing that, it's not been a problem. It's really worked out okay. And, there have been a few times where I have cameras and the girls know, sometimes I'm just checking in and I can hear them. And I'll be like,
oh, God, what a nightmare. Sorry.
I wouldn't have said it like this. I would have sold it like this. But it also has really helped me. Because I don't think I have I'm assertive, but I don't know if I'm a board manager or I don't know. I'm a leader, but I don't know about the manager part. So this has taught me to be a better employer and learn how to train them and how to teach them by seeing a little bit of okay, I obviously need to teach her more about our upholstery because I could see she got hung up and she had questions, and couldn't answer them, or whatever it is, or the jewelry or any little thing. I want us to be very knowledgeable about every single thing we sell because they all have a story. We have a lot of very small brands. But I also have the ones you have, the fine line stuff, Creative Co-op, and, that kind of stuff. So
I love that it's a kind of a training tool for you. For me, I laughed and I said, what a nightmare. I just remember, I forget I can say the store if I can remember the name because I don't work for them anymore, but they literally managed from the camera.
Oh, yeah.
We would be on a call and there was issues with the team selling and there was issues with the team getting out from behind the counter. There was issues with shoplifting. I'm like, we're on a Zoom call and I'm like, let's pull up all the cameras of your stores. And every single camera, the kids, every single person was behind the register and there's a store full of people shopping and they decide, I'm going to they pick up the phone like so-and-so and they have the phone call, like, I'm watching you on the camera and you need to get on the floor. It's like, okay, that's not a teachable moment. That's not a tool. That is a micromanaging situation. It's like, you can't manage a store from the camera. And they never were in the store. And that was at the end of the day, why I'm not with them anymore. It's like, you need to be in the store. You don't have to live there, but you need to be present. And so
pop in.
Understand how your team sells so you can teach them how to sell versus like calling them on the phone, telling them you're watching them. But I love that you've turned it into a training tool for yourself. I mean,
the benefit too is I'm literally, I don't know, I'm a stone's throw from my store. It's 2 minutes in the car. It's like, boom, right there. So instead of doing that, what they do, I just show up one day. I show up like during the moment, like, oh, have somebody. Like, I don't tell them I've been watching you. And instead of doing so I am still micromanaging Michelle, but like just not as like.
That's smart though, because I mean, if you are able to do that and you can save a sale, like if there's someone, but I mean, just so everyone understands what we're talking about, selling furniture is very different than selling something off the rack. And you having understanding just from being in Z Gallery and knowing the information that we had to know about, it's an 8-way hand tie. It is down. It's a foam wrap, down wrap, foam seat. It's, there's so many different nuances to selling. And it's like, because it's not inexpensive merchandise, like talking about a $7,000 sofa. And it's like, if you are seeing something struggle and you can come in and save the sale, I applaud that. Cause I think that, and it's, it's not like you're like, I was watching you and it's like, you just happen to show up and like, I'm here. I'm an extra set of hands. Like, I think that's really smart. It's like, but I do know that, like I said, from my other client, my past clients, like, that's not how to use your camera system. That is not a teachable moment. It's like,
but all those little things like get out from behind the counter, engage with your, with your customers. I always tell the girls, like, it's our house, it's our space. Like you gotta tell them what they're looking at and show what we got. And like, it's like having somebody in your house.
Mm-hmm.
And so treat them nicely and talk them up but don't over talk them. And, there's just little things like,
How do you train them, just on a training question, how do you train them on, say the customer's like, I'll come back and, I'll let you know. And they walk out the door, they have your card. How do you train them on selling and the follow up and getting the customer back and closing a sale?
We do a lot of, speccing items out for people because we have a small store. We don't have a ton of, furniture inventory in the store. So people will come in looking for a new bedroom set, and we only have one bed in there. We don't have tons of beds. So a lot of times we get their information and we'll send them spec sheets of what they've been looking at, some other options. We try to follow through that way. It all goes through my hello@COVE805, so I can see the back and forth thing. And I've been able to, really pop in there and help the girls by saying, hey, let me Photoshop this up for you really quick. Let me show you what this will look like. And then we've sold, what was going to be a $2,000 rug turned into a $16,000 living room. So, yeah. So I just tell them we're a family. We help each other. Like, let us all, I want to know what's going on. Like if I get us, an inquiry about something, I'll write it down and we put it on our little register area. So like, if that person walks in again, at least the next girl knows, like, okay, this woman was in, look, she took some samples home. We try to keep everybody, all of us in the know so we know what's going on.
Do you guys call people or do you email or you text or how do you, because that's, I think the big question of the day for a lot of people. And I usually don't ask questions about sales, but because your type of store and selling these items, like there is a certain amount of follow up to close a sale. So how are you, what's the best response you have with, because like I'm trying to think, Z Gallery, we called and, I don't think there was text back in that day. There wasn't.
It's getting, I was talking to my husband about this. He's my silent partner. He's very involved, but he's got his own job. But, we were talking about that because I said, gosh, it's really hard to get a hold of people now. Like, we just did a bunch of mailers in the area and they haven't been translating into, before we did it 4 years ago, tons of traffic from that. But I think people are not looking at their mail anymore. They're just throwing it away. So, okay, that didn't work. People used to respond. They wouldn't respond to a call. They would just let it go to voicemail, but they would text us back. Even that's getting more interesting. Like people are getting, especially younger than 40, they're getting really weird about getting back to you.
Yeah.
Older, they do. They want the social, like my 60 and older customers, they're fantastic. They're just as lonely as I am. They want to socialize, but the 40 under, they don't.
Interesting. I wonder how that, I've got to ask apparel people that question, because I do wonder how people do close, especially on big ticket items. Cause I just know that, like, for us, it was always calling and, and getting someone's email address now is really challenging. And it's like, I have that challenge of getting people's email addresses because people just don't want it, because you get bombarded with calls.
Yes. You do.
And texting, I'm like, I don't know. Texting to me is hard. I had a girl at Macy's. There was like a makeup counter, and literally it became like every day was like a sales pitch for something. It was finally like, stop, like, please stop. Like, I totally appreciate your follow through, but like, this is too much for foundation.
You're going to laugh because I also worked at Macy's at the makeup counter.
Oh, how funny. So
I worked at prescriptives.
I still love that perfume.
I've done a little of everything. You'll see. I'm kind of like a Renaissance woman.
Well, I think that's when I start talking to a lot of owners, that's really a lot of us have done multiple jobs. And I used to open up with the question, how old were you when you had your first job? And, I realized the ones that you said you started your first job at 14, like those are the people that have had the most rounded backgrounds, I feel like. And I feel like those rounded backgrounds are incredibly important in retail. I interviewed the owner for Soberish in Atlanta, and she is an attorney by trade. She opened the store. She took her like makeup days and how she handled customers during her makeup days of the touch and feel and telling them what's in it and how it feels, and like giving her all the information about the product, not just like, here it is, blah, blah. But I wonder if that's some of your takeaway during those days of explaining the product and the touch and the feel that goes to fabric. And
I do feel like every little job I've had, I moved a lot during my 20s. And so I think I was always getting new jobs, but I mean, I've done everything. I've been a DJ. I've done it all. And everything has put me to where I am right now. I don't know why, but I'm very particular about the music I play at my store because my background is in music.
What do you play in your store?
My go-tos are usually something a little surfy, Jack Johnson, Donovan Frankenreiter. I'll play old Beach Boys, but I also my husband and I are extremely into music. We still go to festivals. No more Coachella. We're a little too old for that one. We go to Bottle Rock now. But, sometimes I will have my grunge day and, I'll make sure it's not too bad. I'll skip over Tool, but we'll play 80s some days. My whole rule is no country ever. I don't like country.
It's weird. I was always no country. And then I got here and suddenly Casey Musgraves is like,
I like her too. I know.
She's country lady. So.
I know. I don't know. Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just because it's a product of your environment, but I never, ever listened to it and I never understood it. And oddly, I can't even believe I'm saying this, but it's like, I like it now. Like,
I know. I don't know what happened. This place is very country too. And people don't realize that, but Paso Robles, people have twangs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty country. We have a lot of farmers or ranchers here.
Yeah.
And so it's, I surprised myself. Chris Stapleton is another one. He's great. So I will play some stuff, but I just always make it like, I want it to be fun when you come in and I want it to be an experience. So
yeah. You talked a little bit about being on the Chamber of Commerce. Please talk about that because I've talked to several people on the importance of being involved in your community and what being involved and having a voice in some of these meetings, why it makes a difference.
Yeah. Well, I joined almost immediately after I started the store, just as a member. And then, maybe about a year or two after I'd opened the store, I was asked by a couple of the board members, like, would you be interested? And I kind of didn't know what that was going to be like. I will say, if I were still down in Orange County, those chambers are people who are paid. That is a whole job in itself. We are a volunteer organization. So we are all doing this on our own time for no money. And I've never seen a group of people more dedicated to the success of our businesses as this group. It is a complete family in its own. I never thought a 75-year-old woman would be one of my best friends, but here we are. Like, I love these people so much. What we were able to accomplish together has been fantastic. We kept our little town alive during COVID. We kept our restaurants running. It's amazing. So here I am almost 5 years in. I keep saying, oh, I'm going to quit, but no, I don't think so. I really like it.
What does it look like to be involved on a entry level? Like when you first began to, like a position that you're in now, what is your position within the?
We just help out. I'm just a board member, but, I help out with whatever they need. So we do ribbon cutting. So you have to be there. If we have, I had been doing marketing for them at one point. They don't even know. I don't think they know, but we got an Instagram and I've been doing all their Instagram for them. So that just started. So I just, if they ask us to do something, or we have like some kind of event coming up, I try to help us out as much as possible. I'm one of the only ones. There's just a couple of us that are not retired. So it is harder for me. I can't be at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday ribbon cutting. That's not easy for me. But I'll do what I can. So yeah.
I just think it's so important to have, important to be involved, but also important to have a voice for when things do come up for vote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's spread my reach. It helps get my name out there. People, I'll wear my shirt to my ribbon cuttings, or if we're doing a beach cleanup, I'll wear my COVE shirt, and people go, oh, you're from COVE. And so, I am wearing, the hat of my business, like all the time, it seems like.
That's really all around. So what is some of the advice that I've got two more questions, but this one is the predecessor to today's. What is some advice that you would have for designers that either have a store or somebody that is a designer that is thinking about opening a store? What is a piece of advice that you would give someone?
If you can, find somebody who can handle the retail side of it. You may want to be involved with the buying, which is definitely what I find very important because it's my brand. But if you can find somebody to take care of that day to day that can really do it, that is invaluable. I really think that it would be a game changer if I could find somebody. So if somebody hears this and wants a job as my manager, they should reach out. But that one would be very important. The second one is basically just knowing, like, gosh, if you don't have enough money to hire people to do anything, you got to learn how to merchandise. Merchandising is key. I've learned so much from your podcast and so much from just like Instagram. You've helped me out, but like now I'm able to train my staff how to do it. And don't put one thing over there, one thing over there, one thing over there. All together, make it big. I know. Then if you got one thing, put all the colors together, do whatever it is. But knowing all that stuff has been a game changer. I can see it in like my photos. I'll take photos like before and after, and I can see the way people react to it. And it's amazing. So yeah.
It's funny. I know that a lot of people can't afford a merchandiser, or they think they can do it, or whatever the case may be. But merchandisers are a silent, or merchandising, whoever's doing it is your silent salesperson. And it is so important, that, your store is cohesive, but also so how often do you move your store around? Cause that's, I'm sure cause I watch you all the time. Like you're moving it around a lot.
Yeah. Because we are small, if we sell, somebody will come in and buy pillows for a sectional, and there's 6 of your pillows. And then I've got to fill in spaces. Or if somebody buys a couple coffee tables off the floor or whatever it is, I'm moving the store. So, it really, I do try to keep it fresh in that, if I do feel like summer's coming, okay, we're going to move like our beach umbrellas to the front and the towels and, so it really, I try to either, if we've been slow, but the season's changing, I'll move it then. But if we're busy, we have to change it almost weekly because, the stuff is moving in and out so fast. So
you have to merchandise, you have to learn it.
Yes. Yeah. I actually find it to be one of the funnest parts of the business. I love it.
It always is. And it's like, it cracks me up because any store I go to, not any, but a lot of the stores I go to, it's, the staff, like, would they have jobs where they're supposed to be cleaning and whatnot? And you're like, what happened? Like, doesn't seem like anyone's cleaning, but everyone's moving things around. Like I've had to say, stop letting them move things around. Have them clean first. Like, that's number one. Clean first. And then you have time, then you can merchandise. Cause it's like, it's the fun job. I mean, and it is. It's like, to me, the best job in the world, which is why I don't manage anymore. I mean, like, I was a great manager. Like, I hated it because you had to be the a-hole. Like, I was a great manager, but I mean, Rock Paradise calls me the whip. I mean, I am very strict with what I expect out of my team and like how.
I need it. I need that. I need a little of that. I need the whip. I need to be the whip.
It is, I don't know. I like to balance it out with, there's the, motivating and developing the teams, but at the end of the day, my standards were very high and it was an expectation that I expected from my staff. And it's funny because even in my days of managing my own stores at Fritz Siegel, I still have team members that I talk to from my team, and a lot of them are like, the reason why that whole phrase, you got time to lean, you got time to clean, that's still what I do in my job today.
I'm going to take that one. I like it. How did I not think of that one? I like that one.
You got time to clean. I mean, because no one wants to clean. And I've had the conversation. I just had it with Rock. It was like, they have this beautiful gallery and it's the care and love that you put into your store and the cleanliness and what your customers are touching and feeling is important, because if you don't show it love and it's not cleaned or dusted or whatever, you're not giving it value. And even I interviewed my friend from Caden, and that's the first thing he says about Caden's expectations when they bring in partners and surf shops. It's like the fold, how it's hung, how it's clean, because we are giving the product value. And if you're going to sell something that's very expensive and it's dirty or it's unfolded or it's like in a pile over there, like Costco, mountain of khakis that you have to rifle through, you're not giving it value. And I that time to lean, you got time to clean.
It's so important. And the biggest thing, and I see it a lot in my store, but I remember seeing this in other stores and going, ew, what's the problem? Bugs. Guys, your windows, the flies like your windows, and they fall down and you don't see them because they're on the.
Thank you.
And those dots on your windows is fly poop. It is fly poop. Yep. Those are just spots. Clean it.
Thank you.
Gross.
And it's funny because I don't know if retailers are looking in their window, but I had Amy from Windows to Wear. She used to be the head of windows for Macy's in Chicago.
Oh,
head of windows. And she used to look at them from outside, inside perspective, up close, far away. How's it lit? And like, are there bugs in the window? All of it is part of what you put out, what you give value to. And
absolutely.
Like, your customers see those dead flies. Like, God, I hate to tell you.
Yeah. So flies, and because we have a little kitchen in our space, I always tell them, I said, if you're going to make food and heat it up in the microwave, if that smells, you do whatever you can to get rid of the smell of that food. Usually it's me that's guilty because I bring a lot of leftovers, but the smell will permeate into the store, and nobody wants to smell your like beef stew from 2 nights ago. Like, it's
right. Fish. Mine is fish. It's like no one was allowed to microwave fish, like, at all, period. I don't care. Like, I'm sorry, because fish, you can't get rid of the smell. And also you're like shopping and it's like, what is that smell? What is that smell? It's like, oh, it's my salmon.
So I just have to tell you this one because it's not great, but that happened about 2 years ago. We butt up against the 101 freeway, and Caltrans decided to cut all the bushes along the freeway. Well, what does that do? It shakes the rats out. It shakes rats out. And so we have fixed our store, but our neighboring clothing store has not fixed their ceiling or like just little things. So they have holes into their space, but they somehow got under my raised foundation. And there is a crawl space, but at some point towards the front of the store, it gets too low and you can't get in there anymore. Well, that's where a rat died. A rat died under my floor.
God.
And my floors are historic. He won't let me, I can't saw a hole to get a rat.
What did you do?
I used my COVID air purifier that I had brought it there, set it right over the spot.
Oh my God.
It was by my rug wall that I had. And so my Terminator or bug guys, they had this bag. I guess it's used for dead things. And they hung it behind one of my rugs. But man, it took like 6 months. We would just light the candles over there. Like people, I only had one person ever say, "Smells funny." Yeah, it's a rotting carcass. I'm sorry.
When I was in Vegas, I forget what store I walked into. I'm like, what is that? I actually said it out loud, like, what is that smell? And the lady behind the counter was like, I hate to say it, but I think something died in the ceiling. I'm like, oh my God. Like that.
Yeah, you know that smell. When you smell that smell, you're like, oh God. Yeah.
This is real. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to turn the conversation around.
But yeah, it's a thing. But all those little things, I mean, especially if you live in an area that has some nature, man, these things happen.
Yeah, I bet. My last question is, because I asked you the piece of advice question is, how do you find inspiration? You're creative. Like, how do you find inspiration for both life and for your store?
Gosh, I will say my main inspiration ever, what started me on this, is actually Martha Stewart. I am a huge Martha Stewart fan.
Oh,
Next would be Ina Garten. I find creativity in every aspect of life. I love to cook. So sometimes recipes and learning about a different type of cuisine, I'll get inspired. I went through a big Asian thing during like 21, 22, where I was like, we don't have really good Chinese here. So I was trying to learn how to make Chinese food, and that took me down a path. And so it's weird with food that it does it a lot, but music even, I get bored of music. We end up turning on weird stations on our Spotify. And, the other day we were listening to music from Mexico City. And there's always a way to find some creative aspect out of a situation. We travel a lot, not as much as we want to anymore because of the store, but just all that. I feel like if you open your eyes, you can be inspired. It's everywhere. It's all over the place. I live in a beautiful area. If you've never seen Pismo Beach, Google search it. It's gorgeous here. It is, jaw dropping, really. Especially with all the rain we've been having. There's poppies everywhere. It's beautiful. So I feel like all of that just, it keeps me going. And it keeps me, my eyes open to beauty. That's really all this is. It's bringing the beauty I see into my store to sell to people. So
that's a fantastic way to end this conversation. Thank you so much for your time. I loved the time I spent with you before. I love that people are going to get to hear about you and your store and how you began and everything. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I really appreciate it. Thank you, Michelle.
Welcome.